Daf Yomi, tractate, Bava Batra, page 54a, top of the page. Dalet and Aleph, top of the page, with the words Dishta Lifta Be Pile de Are de Ger. And just to start from, this was the middle of something from the previous Amud, the previous side. It said, Amar Rav Yirmiyah Bira'a, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yirmiyah Bira'a says, that Rav Yehuda says, Hi man, with regard to this one who threw turnip seeds in the crevices of the land of a convert who died without heirs, it is not sufficient to take possession. So he said, Dishta lifta bepile de ara de ger lo have chazaka. If someone threw turnip seeds in the crevices, pile, bepile de ara de ger, lifta bepile ara de ger. My taima beidana de shida lo have shivcha hashta de kashavach mimela kashavach. What is the reason for this? As at the time that he threw the seeds, there was no enhancement to the value of the field. Now that the turnips have grown and the value of the field is enhanced, it is enhanced by itself. Amar Shmuel, Haiman de Pashach dikla, Adata de dikla, Kane. Adata de chevasa lo kani hechi dami shakal mehai gisa adata de dikla kula mechad gisa adata de chavasa. The Gemara records a series of rulings with regard to taking possession of land. Shmuel says, with regard to this one who cuts the branches of a palm tree, if he had in mind the acquisition of the palm tree, he has acquired it. But if he had in mind the benefit of the animals, to feed his animals the branches, he has not acquired it. Again, the same question is going to come up. How can you possibly verify what was in his mind? I guess it's just he has to, it's like a faith system, it's an honor system. He has to say what was in his mind. We trust that he's going to say it correctly. At any rate, the Gemara asks, what are the circumstances in which... the Gemara asks the same question that I asked. What are the circumstances in which it can be known what he had in mind? The Gemara answers, if he took branches from this side and from that side, he had in mind the acquisition of the palm tree, as this assists the growth of the tree. But if the branches that he took were all from one side, he had in mind the benefit of the animals. Not necessarily. The Gemara gives a reason. That's one way. But maybe he wasn't thinking about that at all. It doesn't take into consideration all people at all times. Maybe a number of people would do this, but other people may not. You can't verify it. You can say probably they did this for this reason, but there's always exceptions to that rule. At any rate, the Omar Shmuel, a high man de zache zichia adata de ara kani adata de tzivi lo kani hechidami shakal rav reve vizutre adata de ara shakal rav reve shavak zutre adata de tzivi. And Shmuel says, with regard to this one who clears a field of trees, he had in mind the improvement of the field to prepare for plowing, he has acquired it. But if he had in mind the collection of the wood, he has not acquired it. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances in which it can be known what he had in mind? The Gemara answers, if he took large and small pieces of wood, he had in mind the improvement of the field. However, if he took large pieces of wood, but left the small ones, he had in mind the collection of the wood. Not necessarily. Maybe he wanted to collect small pieces of wood. It's only taking one specific thought in mind. But what if he wanted wood, and he wanted large and small pieces of wood, and that's why he collected it? You can't know for sure. And Shmuel says, with regard to this one who removes protuberances and levels the ground, Omer Shmuel, Haiman, Diaskil Tikla, Adata de Arakani, Adata de Be Dari, Lokani, Hechidami, Shakal Mulaya, Ushada Benetza, Benatza, Adata de Ara, Mula Bimula, Benatza, Adata de Vedari. And Shmuel says, with regard to this one who removes protuberances and levels the ground, if he had in mind the improvement of the field to prepare it for plowing, he has acquired it. But if he had in mind the conversion of the field into a threshing floor, he has not acquired it. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances in which it can be known what he had in mind? The Gemara answers, if he took a mound and threw it in a ditch, thereby leveling both areas, he had in mind the improvement of the field. But if he leveled the ground with a mound in the place of a mound, and the ditch in the place of a ditch, expanding each area but leaving the field as a whole uneven, he had in mind the conversion of the field into a threshing floor. And Shmuel says, V'amar Shmuel, Haiman de Pasach Mai Ba'ara, Adaita de Arakani, Adaita de Chavere Loikani, Hechidami, Pasach Tre Bave, Chayal Me'al V'chad Mapik, Adaita de Chavere, Chad Bava, Adaita de Aram. Similar sequence, similar process. And Shmuel says, with regard to the one who opened a blockage and enabled water to enter into a section of land, if he had in mind the improvement of the field to irrigate it, he has acquired it. But if he had in mind the catching of the fish, or was to enable the water to flow in so that he could catch the fish therein, he has not acquired it. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances of which can be known what he had in mind? The Gemara answers, if he opened two gates, one bringing in the water and the one taking out the water, this indicates that he had in mind the catching of the fish, as the water will flow out of the field, giving him the means to catch the fish. But if he opened only one gate, this indicates that he had in mind the improvement of the field. I mean, that seems a little bit more, specific, like it could be that. But again, it's not 100% sure at any given time. At any rate, let's continue. Hahi itisadach ledikla de saf shicha tle sarshinin. The Gemara relates there was a certain woman who profited from an ownerless palm tree by cutting its branches for 13 years. Asahu gavra rafik tuse purta asa lekame de levi armile kame de mar ukva okme biyade asai kat savcha kame amarle my avidlach Lo izach is achzekta kemid chazki inashi. The Gemara relates there was a certain woman. Let's just say it over just to keep the continuous flow of the story. The Gemara relates there was a certain woman who profited from an ownerless palm tree by cutting its branches for 13 years. Another then came. It says here Gavra, so it looks like a man came. Another came and plowed beneath it a bit. So it looks like he established chazaka on it. The case came before Levi, and some say it came before Mar Ukva, who established the property in the possession of the one who plowed. The woman came and shouted before him, protesting the perceived injustice of his ruling. Mar Ukva said to her, so I guess it was Mar Ukva, they're holding it as Mar Ukva, what can I do for you? As you did not take possession of the property in the manner that people take possession. Amarav, Rav says, Hatzor tzura menechse hager kono. The Rav lo kone leginsa, the Rav ela betzurta. Rav says, one who draws an image, meaning he paints an image on the wall on the property of a convert who died without heirs, has acquired it. As Rav himself acquired the garden of a house of Rav, which had been ownerless property, only by drawing an image. Itmar, it was stated, Sadeh ha-misuyemet b'mitzareo Omar Rav Huna Rav Kevan de Hikish Ba Mikosh Echad Kana Kula Shmuel Amar Lo Kana El Mikom Mikosho Bilvan. It was stated with regard to a field that is defined by its boundaries. In other words, that has clearly demarcated boundaries on all sides. Rav Huna says, that Rav says, once he struck the land with a hoe one time, he acquired the entire property. And Shmuel says that he acquired only the place that he struck with the hoe.